Alright, welcome back everyone. In this week's video, I'm going to be taking these two kitchen knives and using some chemical etching to give it a Damascus steel effect. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it.
I'm going to take this to the bandsaw. I'm going to cut this thing open so I can get all the pieces separated and ready for prepping. Basically, this thing's broken. You can see it right from that section where the third dowel is towards the top. I'll get these all cleaned up. I'm going to grind a bevel on both of those pieces that broke. And I'm going to join them back in and I'm going to weld them solid and then grind them flush so everything stays straight, flat, and nice and smooth. So there you have it. Now I still have my location exactly where it was. And we move on to the next steps of prepping the surface. Now, typically, if I have too much grinding marks or scuff marks, I'll gauge what size grit I should use in order to continue to bring those profiles down. In this case, I just jumped from 400 to about 3,000, and that was perfect enough. Once those have been prepped, I prep my vinyl. This is just typical vinyl wrap. You can probably get it from your local crafting store. The whole key point of using this is the fact that when I go to submerge it in the ferric chloride, it's not going to eat away at the actual vinyl. It's only going to eat away at the exposed steel that's in its place. So you see here, I go through and I darken the sections that I'm actually going to take a small razor blade to, and I'm going to tediously cut out so that way it shows only the sections that I want etched. So, like I said, it's very tedious. I want to say it probably took me about 30, 40 minutes just to, slightly cut these sections out and to be really careful not to ruin the sections that I wanted to keep in place. So, typically, whenever we get towards the acid side of things or any kind of chemical handling, you always have to remember to keep a neutralizer next to the chemical that you're going to be using. In this case, I'm using ferric chloride to etch at the steel, and I will go through with gloves on and agitate the surfaces so I can continue to accelerate the process. But on the other hand, I will have a container that contains sodium bicarbonate or baking soda mixture to neutralize the ferric chloride to keep myself safe and anything else around me. As I continue to reprofile the surface after etching, all I'm doing is going straight to the 3000 grit and just cleaning it off with a little bit more WD-40, and then I use a polishing solution afterwards to make it look really good. As you can see, both surfaces look phenomenal. Very nice, and it has that illusion that it's a Damascus steel, which is what we're looking for. Prepping the wood, I'm using wenge because it's relatively dense, and I just like the darkness of it naturally, and the two-tone, blackish, brownish to the lighter brown. Looks really good. The important thing to remember when you're making thinner blocks like this is when you cut them down from the center, you want to kind of open them up like a book and remember that you're making a left and a right side. Because if not, what's going to end up happening is you're going to misplace the grain and you're going to accidentally flip apart or mix it by accident. And, you don't want to be dealing with all that stuff. So it's good to remember to make a left and a right. And if you have any excess flash that's probably going to get ground off, just take it to the bandsaw, cut the rest of it off so you don't have to do so much grinding later on. So as you can see here, I've applied some tape to show indication marks on where I need to drill the pre-existing holes that were already inside the blade's handle, right? So because I'm not going to be going all the way through like most of the time people do on these knives, I will actually be having the dowel in the center, just through the wood a little bit on each side and through the actual steel handle. Once I've done that, I've mixed up some epoxy resin. I'll go through and I'll put the steel dowels in there with the epoxy, clamp everything really solid, and then wait until the next day to disassemble everything and start grinding. In the meantime, you guys know what to do, man. I got my whole team hard at work put this content out, so let's show them some love. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's get this thing over to the belt sander. We got to finish profiling the wood to the steel. That way, the transition between the two are basically flush and flawless. Once I'm done with that, I'll send it over to my 4.5-inch grinder, and I'll radius the edges, making it real comfortable in my hand. In order to make the wood shine really well, I got Alfie Shine, which is a wax and resin mixture. The formula is really great. It saturates the wood really well. You wait about 30 minutes or so, polish the stuff out, and it looks incredible. So there you guys have it. It's a fun project to do, and it came out great. Last but not least, we got to do the paper test, right? You can't make sharp objects like this without doing the paper test. We'll test it on number one. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's perfect. Take it on number two. Oh man. Yeah. You can't go wrong with that, man. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, man. And I'll see you guys in the next video.